I'm gonna get started. Good morning, Mr. Darby. How you doing this morning?
Morning. It's a great morning here in West Texas. Windy and sunny.
Yeah, a little bit cooler than the last time we saw you. You've been out here all week. You've seen the changes in weather, 30-degree temperature drops. So, what's the experience been for you just being out here all week?
Well, Monday and Tuesday was hot. We all got sunburned and it was about 90 degrees. So Wednesday it got cold. Today it's a little bit windy but chilly, but we're enjoying our time out here in the bright sunshine.
So we'll jump directly into kind of the hot topic for this election. You said this race is about one issue. So with school choice, I guess that's the general buzzword for the public is what they would call it. But private school vouchers, what's the problem in your eyes, and what would you support?
Well, of course, I support public education, and I think public education needs all the support we can give it. And quite frankly, right now, this whole issue is about do we take public dollars and divert them to private or parochial purposes without the same accountability, without the same testing, without the same transparency, without the same open enrollment policy that public schools have. And I just find that objectionable. And so our statewide leadership, our governor in particular, has made this an issue that he's not going to fund public schools unless we have private vouchers. And I object to that. I think that money needs to go into our public schools. Our teachers need pay raises. Our schools need safety upgrades. And so I want that money to go into public schools, not simply diverted into private or parochial schools.
So what does accountability and transparency look like to you in that case?
Accountability, of course, has always been related to school testing. You know, our public schools have to go through a testing procedure. It's called the STAR test. We have an A through F rating system. I'm not happy with that. We were going to change that in the bill. We were going to change how we test and change the matrix involved in how we grade schools and student achievement. But we weren't able to do that because we couldn't get over the voucher hurdle. We couldn't discuss all those important things without also accepting a full-throated, largest universal voucher program in the country, as the governor styled it.
What have you been hearing from educators on the campaign trail?
Oh, I can tell you, all the educators are very much aligned. They want help. They want their teachers to be rewarded, and they want some changes done in the testing, but they don't want to have to accept a voucher program along with it. And so they are supportive of what we're trying to do.
So what does a change in the testing method look like to you?
Well, I mean, we've come up with different matrix. The bill actually moved away from the STAR test and came up with another testing model. Seems like in education we always try to move the goalpost. About the time we tell teachers and students what's expected, and they do that, then we move the goalposts a little further or in a different direction. And so we need to change how we do that. And we need to have a testing procedure, but it shouldn't be about teaching for the test. This ought to be about a fair measure of student achievement. And so that's what I'm supportive of change for.
Okay, well, I'm going to consult my notes. What kind of conversations have you had with parents regarding this issue?
Parents are concerned, as they should be, with how their kiddos are getting educated. I think clearly the discussion is not about what some characterize as school choice. We have school choice in Texas. Parents here in San Angelo have wonderful choices. They can either support a wonderful public school in San Angelo Central, Lakeview High School, or they can support a wonderful public charter school with TLC. They have private or parochial schools with Cornerstone and Ambleside and Trinity Lutheran, a parochial school in Angelo Catholic and Sacred Heart. Clearly those are choices. And we also have one of the largest homeschool communities in this state here in San Angelo. And that's what I call school choice. And parents do have that here. But that's not what this discussion is about. This discussion is about taking public dollars and moving them into those private or parochial schools without the same testing measures or accountability measures that public schools have.
So we may get back into school choice a little bit later in the conversation, but I want to switch, briefly switch gears. So I know you and your opponent have drawn a line in the sand over school choice, but I think both of you would agree you don't want to see a second consecutive term for President Biden. So how do you, I guess, reconcile the similarities you two might have, and yeah, how do you reconcile the similarities you two might have?
Well, I think we both support border security. Clearly, that's the #1 issue facing Texans right today is the porous border that we have and the unfettered migration through our state to other parts of the country. We both want to make sure that that stops as soon as possible, or is at least diminished in some respect. I have been clear in supporting border initiatives. I've supported every one of Governor Abbott's measures with regard to the border. As lately as November, we approved $1.6 billion more dollars to build more wall and to add DPS officers. So I'm supportive of all that. And so we have to, when the issue that's dividing this campaign today is the issue of vouchers. That is the preeminent issue. I would suspect that my opponent and I may agree on border security measures and other important issues, but this is about vouchers in this election.
So I've seen the campaign ads. I've seen both of your campaign ads, both on our station, on our website, on YouTube. And I mentioned this to your opponent. A lot of the campaign ads on her side, the word that they tie to you is liberal. And I told her when we spoke that you definitely disagree with that. You'd point to everybody in a room and say that you're voting for them, and that you would argue that you've been consistent over a number of years. So what can you say to that?
My record is consistent, and I have been a strong, fiscally responsible Republican for all of my life. I helped organize the first Republican primary here in Tom Green County in 1978. Until 1978, we hadn't had a Republican primary. So myself and others helped make sure that we had that Republican voice be heard. So I've been a strong, fiscally responsible Republican representative for all that time. I was first elected back in 2006. I have not changed any. What I would say has happened in their state is we've become not so much Republican and Democrat, it's more rural and urban. And a lot of the challenges of facing Texans today, especially those of us who live out here in West Texas, is they want to take our water, they want to take our road dollars, they want to take our healthcare dollars, they want to take all of these things, but yet we need those things to survive out here in rural Texas. There are only 17 state representatives that represents 2/3 of the land mass of Texas. That is all the land lying west of I-35. There are 25 in Harris County alone. So right up at the start, we are outnumbered. So we have to form alliances to band together to make sure we have resources here in rural Texas. And that's when I take votes, and they say I take a vote that may not be what some would consider to be, quote, Republican, but the reality is they are pitting rural members against urban members. And so when I vote for more dollars for roads in rural Texas, some may count against me for that, but I'm supporting rural Texas and trying to make sure we have those resources. And that's really what it's about. It's about Texas is changing. Texas is becoming more urban. And Texas, the Texans that live in cities, they want more and more of our water. They want more and more of our education dollars. They want more and more of our health care dollars. And yet, if we don't have that, we can't live out here. The first and foremost resource we have is our children. And if we don't have good public school dollars for a good public education, There's not anybody going to live in rural Texas. And so that's what this is about. I want to make sure that rural Texas have the resources it needs for the people to live here. And that's the challenge facing us. They want to take our dollars, what limited dollars we have, and take and divert them to private or parochial schools. And I think that's just wrong. I think we ought to spend those dollars in our public education.
So you've obviously received an endorsement from your longtime friend, Congressman Pfluger. Your opponent has received several endorsements from prominent Republicans, including former President Trump. So I guess what has that done for your campaign? What has that meant for your campaign?
I think people out here realize that they know who to vote for. They know who stands up for them. I've got the endorsements of every law enforcement agency in this state, the local law enforcement agency. I've got the endorsement of the Texas Farm Bureau, the Cattle Raisers Association, the realtors, the builders, the people who live and work in rural Texas. I've got their support. Those other folks, they're motivated by outside dollars. They're trying to raise campaign dollars for very expensive campaigns. And so they cater to and listen to outside influences that are willing to give them dollars for their endorsement. This is nothing more than pay to play. Nothing more than politicians that are raising money on these endorsements. I think the people of House District 72 are smarter than that. I think the people of House District 72 look at who their representative is and care about it and say, we will decide who our representative is, not somebody that's never even heard of West Texas, much less the candidate that they've endorsed. This is all about the money, folks. Don't ever forget it. Don't ever lose sight of it. This is about money. These politicians receive money for these endorsements.
So how do you make sure that prospective voters are educated enough on these issues to make the decision that you might feel is right and to vote for you? You know, they might be watching national news. They might recognize names like Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick. They might recognize names like former President Trump. But if they're not well versed on issues here in this city and in West Texas, especially if they're newcomers and are registering to vote in Texas for the first time, how do you get those people on the same page?
Well, I mean, we're being drowned out. You have seen, and your station has received benefits, I'm sure, from people who advertise. They're just throwing millions of dollars into this race to get a local House District candidate beat. We're trying to get the message out. This interview is part of the process, is making sure that the public understands who I am and what I'm about. But if people are not going to sit down and pay attention, if they're just going to look at some face that flashes across the screen that says they're endorsing somebody, well, they've never met them. They don't know what they stand for. This is not about that. This is about them doing that endorsement so that they can make money in their own political campaigns. People got to be smarter than that. And I'm trying to educate them on that.
So you've been in office or in this position for 18 years.
Yes.
As I understand it, you're a businessman as well.
I am. I'm born and raised here in San Angelo. I built my business here. I'm a lawyer here. I'm in the land title insurance business. We've got other businesses here. We've raised our family here. We've got grandchildren here. We're part of this community. Are we to think that the future of Angelo State University, that was my first bill in the legislature, is moving Angelo State University out of the Texas state system and into the Texas Tech system. And we've seen the wonderful benefits for that. This school has grown. So are we to think that the future of Angelo State University and the funding for Angelo State University, the funding and the relationship with Goodfellow Air Force Base, the funding and relationship of the state-supported data center here, the state-supported living center in Carlsbad, the road infrastructure up here is going to be left to the vagrancies of a freshman representative from rural Howard County? Are we going to trust all that important infrastructure and the successes of those infrastructures to somebody who's never done it before, has no real life experiences associated with that? This is a binary choice. You're either going to support somebody that has the experience and has lived here their whole life, supporting this community in this area, or are you going to trust it to somebody who hasn't? It's a binary choice.
So in that case, with you having served in your position for this amount of time, I'm sure the people who know you, especially the people passing by, your constituents who have known you for a long time and have grown up with you, wouldn't blame you if you said, you know what, I think I just want to leave this to someone else and I want to play golf. So why you? Why do you keep going?
Well, part of it is because it is the struggle for this time, and it's before me. My wife and I could have made just that decision that you just outlined, that we don't want to do this anymore. But the people that live and work in the Concho Valley here, it's too important. Our public education is too important to leave it to the vagrancies of somebody who doesn't care or understand the issue. And so that's why I'm fighting. I'm fighting for my children. We have children that live here, and I've got grandchildren that live here, and I'm fighting for them in this endeavor. It would be easy to pack up and say we don't want to do this anymore, but I think the challenges are too great now to shrink from that challenge.
I'm gonna consult my notes again. Okay. I think we're almost there, reaching the last bit of our interview here today. Thank you again for your time. So I want to shift gears briefly and talk about Proposition 1. I've read it. It suggests eliminating property taxes without raising taxes elsewhere. How do you think that would work, and where would the money come from?
Well, that's fantasy. It's sheer fantasy. For those that would like to fantasize that we can get rid of property taxes, that would be great in an era that we had other revenue sources. But in this state, we have a prohibition against the state income tax. And I think that's a good thing. I voted for that constitutional amendment to put that in. We don't have an income tax, and we're never going to have a state income tax. So how do we fund local governments? If you don't use property taxes, then what other revenue source do we have? The only viable option is sales taxes. So right now we have 6.25% state tax in sales tax, and a 2% for local sales taxes. If we were to do away with property taxes, there's some estimates that say that the sales tax would have to go to 20 or 21%. Well, if we do that, that makes our goods and services less attractive on the world and state markets. People are not going to pay a 21% sales tax when they can go to a neighboring state and buy the same good for, 5 or 6% sales tax. So it makes our goods and services less competitive. But more importantly, we have over 4,200 taxing entities in this state. If you collect a state sales tax, then all that money would go to Austin. And those 4,200 local taxing entities would have to go to Austin to beg for their money. So if we need to do jail here, or if we need a road grader for the city, are we going to go to Austin to beg for the revenue associated to do that improvement to our local, for our local entities? No. We want the ideal, and it's not ideal, but the only practical solution is you have local taxes, property taxes, pay for local services, so that people in this area who get to vote for their county and city and school officials, they can say, we want these values on you while you hold office, and we're going to hold you responsible for keeping our property taxes to a minimum. And so I think that's a far better measure with local control than a state sales tax that goes to Austin, and we have to go down there and beg for the money. And so that's primarily, and it's regressive. Let's face it, in a down economy, people have the choice of whether to buy something or not, other than goods, other than food. So when in a recession, sales tax revenue would be diminished. And so local governments, it's hard to plan when there are things out of your control about the economy. And so they can't plan on the revenue stream associated with maintaining police, fire, all the infrastructure necessary to maintain local government.
So these are my last two questions here. And I'm going to give you, I guess, the tougher one to stomach first. So say your opponent does win this election. What happens for you then?
I'll serve out my term till January of this coming year. And then we'll go about the process of our life. For my grandchildren, my name is Papa, and my wife's name is Honey. And Honey and Papa are going to be fine, even if we lose this election. But we are fighting hard for our children and our grandchildren. And so if we lose this election, this office does not define who I am. It's what I do, but it's not who I am. And so we'll resume life, and we'll continue to love our kids and grandkids and be a part of the community. But I won't be responsible for the legislative purpose of this community in the next legislative session.
So my final question is this. So if you do win re-election, I would assume that with this being such an important issue, school choice being such an important issue to Governor Abbott and the people who support Governor Abbott, in order to keep this from passing, at least in its current form, you'd have to stand 10 toes down in legislative sessions for the foreseeable future. So how, in working with the people around you in Austin, and just doing things on the ground like you're doing right now, over the next 4 years, would you be able to do your part to keep this from passing?
Absolutely. The issues are too important not to be fully engaged. We still have to support our teachers. In 2011, we cut $5 billion out of public education. We've never restored that $5 billion. We've seen 14% inflation over the last 3 years. We've never made our schools whole. We have the money in the budget. The money's sitting there. We can appropriate that and get it to where it's needed for our teachers and our schools. My focus will be, in the remaining part of this interim and next session, would be to get that money and deploy it to our schools. And so I will continue to work with all those that share a common vision of supporting our public schools and our teachers and the folks that make our communities great.
I guess this is my final question. I told an accidental lie. So it's same issue, I guess same question reframed a bit. So if you make it into office, can you and the people who are with you on this side of the issue stop Governor Abbott from pushing through and getting private vouchers passed in a future bill?
I certainly think we can. We have that power now. We did do that. I would anticipate after this election there will remain enough people who care about public education in this state to recognize the threat that vouchers poses to that, and I would anticipate that fight going on. So I think I will look for opportunities where we can come together and formulate good policy. We work with the governor throughout the regular session and trying to come up with some good policy. He just did not want to look at it unless it was, in his words, the largest universal school voucher program in the country. And that's really what this is about. He was not willing to look at something lesser that benefited, say, special needs kids. We have a limited voucher program in Texas today, and it's called special education. We are charged to educate every child. Well, we do that in public schools, but we don't fund all of it. It costs about $4 billion a year to fund special needs kids. We only pay $2 billion. So that's a program that I think we should focus in on and try to support our special needs kids that are being underserved today. And that's where I would focus my attention. And there are some kiddos that are trapped in failing schools. I'm open to looking at some ways to help them. But just the idea that we're going to adopt the largest universal voucher program in the country, we're going to throw the babies out with the bathwater just to make sure public dollars are going to private or parochial schools, is not the right answer.